What happens when a billionaire's daughter falls for the humble mechanic who saved her life and sparked her transformation? As love faces the ultimate test against her father's disapproval, power, and pride, will their bond withstand societal expectations and impossible odds? Witness a story of courage, redemption, and the shocking moment that changes everything in this epic tale of love. Hey friends, I hope you are all having a great time. Today, we're bringing you a very interesting and fascinating storyline. I bet you don't want to miss a single bit of this intriguing tale. Sit back and relax as we take you through it. If you're new here, please subscribe to this channel and turn on your notification bell for more captivating stories like this. The story begins in the vibrant city of Lagos, Nigeria, where we meet Ruth. Ruth is a beautiful and elegant lady, but there's a downside to her beauty. She is the daughter of Chief Rowland, a billionaire and a renowned oil and gas magnate, well known and respected throughout Lagos. Despite being Chief Rowland's daughter, Ruth behaves like a wayward child. One fateful day, Ruth was about to go out at night when her dad, Chief Rowland, who was in the living room, saw her. He called her back, and immediately Ruth's mood changed as she sluggishly turned around and looked at her father. He asked her where she was going at that time of the day. She replied, "Oh, clubbing, Dad." Chief Rowland exclaimed in surprise, "What? Did you check your clock?" She replied, "Of course I did," and told her dad she had to leave because it was getting late. As she tried to open the door, she realized it was already locked. Turning back, she asked her dad for the key, but he pretended not to hear her. She moved closer, took the key beside him, and left. The next day, Ruth was in the living room when her dad joined her. Unable to bear his presence because of his constant complaints, she immediately stood up to leave, but he called her back and asked her to sit down because he had something important to discuss with her. Reluctantly, she sat down. Her dad told her she needed to take over at the office for the day because he would not be available. Ruth burst into laughter and said, "Dad? Me? You already know that won't be possible because I have a lot of things to attend to." Chief Rowland quickly shut her up, saying, "What nonsense are you talking about? You're the only child of this family, and I don't expect this kind of attitude towards the company you're supposed to be managing." She replied, "Dad, please, I've had enough of your complaints about my lifestyle. Look at me. I'm still young and beautiful. I don't understand why you, being so rich, want me to stress myself working." Chief Rowland, visibly disappointed, watched her excuse herself and go upstairs. Later that night, Ruth went partying with her friends. As they danced and had fun, a fight broke out. The police arrived and everyone ran away, but some, including Ruth, were arrested. A few minutes later, Chief Rowland's phone rang. It was the police informing him that Ruth was in custody. Chief Rowland, shocked, exclaimed, "What?" Mrs. Rowland, who was with him, looked at him in surprise and asked what had happened. Chief Rowland explained and immediately left for the station. Upon arriving, he asked why Ruth was arrested, and the police explained she was involved in causing a disturbance at the club. Being a well-respected man, Chief Rowland was able to secure her release. Back at home, Ruth was about to head upstairs when her dad stopped her, yelling, "What else do you plan to do? You're bent on ruining your life." Ruth interrupted, saying, "Dad, aren't you tired of all this complaining? Can't you see I'm stressed out? The least you can do is let me go and rest." She stormed upstairs. The following morning, Ruth's friend came to visit. They were chatting and laughing about their next outing when Chief Rowland walked in. Ruth's friend quickly stood to greet him, but he ignored her and looked at them in disgust. Ruth said, "Someone greeted you, but you didn't respond." Chief Rowland remained silent, leaving them in disappointment. Later that day, Chief Rowland was in his office, working on his laptop and reviewing documents when he heard a commotion. Ruth was at the office, yelling at the staff, demanding to see her dad. The staff, unaware she was their boss's daughter, refused to let her through until they informed Chief Rowland. This angered Ruth, who slapped one of them. Hearing the noise, Chief Rowland rushed downstairs. To his surprise, he found Ruth and revealed to the staff that she was his daughter. Apologizing to her, they tried to calm her down, but Ruth grew angrier, yelling at her dad to fire them all. Chief Rowland retorted, "Oh, really? I should fire my staff because of you? And will you replace them?" He then asked, "Why are you here?" Ruth replied, "Dad, I went to the bank to withdraw money and found out my account is frozen. What's going on?" He calmly responded, "Yes, I did that to discipline you." Ruth laughed sarcastically and said, "Seriously, Dad, you're so funny." Chief Rowland told her he was serious and asked her to leave his office. Ruth left, angry. The next morning, Ruth confronted her dad, saying, "Are you seriously doing this to your only daughter? For goodness sake, I need to change my wardrobe, do my facials, and get my body cream. I need the money." Chief Rowland replied, "Exactly. There's nothing reasonable you need money for. You don't invest in anything worthwhile. You just waste money clubbing and buying things that add no value to your life. I'm not giving you a dime until you change your lifestyle." Ruth stormed off, furious. That same day, Mrs. Rowland pleaded with her husband to unfreeze Ruth's account, saying she wasn't herself anymore. However, Chief Rowland refused, stating he would not change his decision until Ruth amended her ways. 2 nights later, Ruth, frustrated, decided to hang out with her friends. As she left the house, her mother tried to stop her, but Ruth ignored her. While driving, her car broke down. As she got out to check, 3 men who had been watching her approached, pointing a gun at her head. One of the 3 bad guys told Ruth to follow them. However, Maurice, a well-known mechanic in the estate, saw what was happening and quickly went after them. Upon reaching the scene, he got into a fight with the men, trying to save Ruth's life. In the process, he got injured but managed to chase them away by threatening them with the police. Afterward, he helped Ruth up and asked if she was okay. She replied, "Yeah, I'm fine, but you're injured." Maurice told her not to worry about him and asked where she was heading at such a late hour. She stammered, I was actually going out when my car broke down, and it's been so stressful looking for a mechanic at this hour." Maurice smiled and said, "Well, you found one already." Ruth, surprised, asked, "Who?" Maurice replied, "I'm a mechanic." Excitedly, Ruth said, "Are you serious? Then why don't you help me fix my car?" Maurice explained that it was too late and unsafe to work on her car at that time. Instead, he suggested she follow him to his house for the night, promising to fix her car the next morning. He asked if she was okay with this, and she smiled, saying, "Why not? I have no other option." She then thanked him for saving her life, and they left. The following morning, Maurice woke up early, fixed Ruth's car, and drove it back to his house. He went inside and woke her up, telling her the car was ready. Ruth asked excitedly, "Really? That was quick." But her mood quickly changed. Maurice noticed and asked what was wrong. Ruth hesitated and said, "Well, I don't have any money on me right now. Maybe I can send it to you later if you give me your account details." Before she could finish, Maurice interrupted, saying she didn't need to worry about payment. Ruth, surprised and excited, thanked him, saying she would never forget his kindness. She collected his contact information before leaving. When Ruth got home, she greeted her parents. Her mother, who had been worried all night and had tried calling her to no avail, rushed to her, asking where she had been. Ruth assured her that she was fine and told her not to worry. Mrs. Rowland suggested she freshen up while she prepared breakfast. Meanwhile, Chief Rowland remained silent, merely observing the interaction. The next day, Ruth called Maurice to thank him again. During their conversation, she asked if they could hang out to get to know each other better. Maurice hesitated, saying, I. But before he could finish, Ruth cut him off, saying she was coming to his house, and ended the call. A few minutes later, Ruth arrived at Maurice's house. Surprised, Maurice welcomed her, saying, "Welcome to my home again. What can I offer you?" Ruth replied, "Nothing, I'm fine." They spent time chatting and getting to know each other. When Ruth's phone rang, she saw it was her father calling, but didn't pick up. Maurice asked why, and Ruth said it wasn't anything serious. They continued chatting before Ruth eventually left. 2 days later, Ruth and Maurice went out for drinks. Suddenly, Ruth's mood changed. Maurice noticed and encouraged her to share her thoughts, saying it would help her feel better. After some persuasion, Ruth opened up about her strained relationship with her father and how he disapproved of her lifestyle. She admitted she regretted her past choices and thanked Maurice for positively influencing her. Maurice advised her to distance herself from negative friends and reconnect with her father. Ruth agreed, and they parted ways. 2 weeks later, Ruth and Maurice met again. They had grown fond of each other. During their conversation, Maurice asked how she planned to reconcile with her father. Ruth admitted she wasn't sure. Maurice suggested she start working at her father's company and try to rebuild their relationship. Ruth thought it was a great idea and decided to act on it. The next morning, Ruth dressed up elegantly and went to the office, greeting her father warmly on her way out. Chief Rowland, taken aback by her demeanor, watched her leave, wondering what she was up to. At the office, the staff, surprised by her cheerful attitude, called Chief Rowland to inform him. He was still puzzled but curious. Later that day, Ruth returned home and greeted her father. Suspicious, he asked her intentions. Ruth, surprised, said, "I don't understand, Dad." He accused her of trying to win back his trust to regain her privileges. Although hurt by his words, Ruth chose to stay calm and walked away. Over the next month, Ruth worked hard to please her father, following Maurice's advice. She and Maurice began dating, and her life changed in ways she never imagined. Maurice's influence helped her reconnect with her father, which made her love him even more. One evening, while chatting with Maurice, Ruth expressed her desire for him to meet her father. Maurice declined, fearing Chief Rowland wouldn't approve. Ruth reassured him, insisting her father would be happy to meet him, and convinced him to come over the next day. The next day, Maurice arrived at Ruth's house. Excited, she welcomed him warmly and went to call her father. When Chief Rowland met Maurice, he immediately recognized him as the mechanic who had fixed his car. Shocked, he exclaimed, "Never! This isn't going to happen," and stormed out. Maurice, disheartened, told Ruth he had expected this reaction. Ruth, confused, asked if he knew her father before. Maurice explained the one time they had met. He decided to leave, and Ruth, stunned by her father's reaction, confronted him. Chief Rowland angrily said, "You brought a common mechanic to my house and expect me to be happy? Don't ever let me see you with him again, or you'll no longer be my daughter." Ruth, deeply disappointed, replied, "Dad, I never expected this from you," and walked away, visibly upset. At Maurice's house, Ruth sat with him as they chatted. Ruth told Maurice about her dad and how she was trying to make him understand. Maurice, a bit skeptical, doubted if their relationship would work. Ruth assured him, promising to do her best to make her dad accept him. She encouraged him, trying to lift his spirits and make him feel more at ease. The following morning, Chief Rowland was in the sitting room when Ruth walked in and told him they needed to talk. He asked, "Talk about what?" She replied, "About Maurice." Chief Rowland dismissed the conversation, saying, "There is nothing to talk about. What is wrong with you? You are the daughter of a billionaire and you stooped so low to go for a common mechanic." This upset Ruth, who retorted, "Dad, what is wrong with a mechanic? Isn't he better than those involved in illegal businesses?" He responded, "I never thought you would bring yourself this low," and ended the conversation. Mrs. Rowland, who had been observing, later approached her husband, trying to reason with him. She suggested he get to know Maurice, but Chief Rowland cut her off, saying he didn't want to discuss the matter again. One fateful day, Chief Rowland went to Maurice's workshop, where he and his colleagues were fixing a car. He offered Maurice a tempting sum of 10 million naira to leave Ruth and forget about her forever. Though the offer was enticing, Maurice turned it down, saying, "Sir, with all due respect, I don't need your money. How could you even do this? Doesn't your daughter mean anything to you? I love her genuinely, and no amount of money can buy that love." Maurice then walked away, leaving Chief Rowland staring after him. Chief Rowland eventually drove off. That evening, Ruth, already informed by Maurice, was furious. She confronted her dad, screaming, "How could you?" Chief Rowland told her to forget about Maurice, but Ruth argued, "This guy saved my life." Surprised, Chief Rowland asked, "Saved your life? How?" Ruth explained everything that had happened months ago and added, "Dad, don't you wonder about this new me? The change in my lifestyle? The clubbing I stopped suddenly? You didn't even ask or care to know. Or did you think it was some miracle from heaven?" Softening her tone, she pleaded, "Dad, please give him a chance. Maurice has positively influenced me, and you can see that. Either you accept him, or you lose me." With that, she walked out, leaving Chief Rowland and Mrs. Rowland stunned. The next morning, as Ruth was about to leave the house, Chief Rowland called her back. She turned and he said, "Invite Maurice over for dinner." Surprised, Ruth exclaimed, "Really?" He replied, "Yes, I want to get to know him." Overjoyed, Ruth hugged her dad and then got into her car, calling Maurice as she drove. She pleaded with him to come for dinner at her house. Initially reluctant, Maurice eventually agreed when Ruth mentioned her dad wanted to meet him. That night, during dinner at Chief Rowland's house, everyone was enjoying themselves, including Maurice. Chief Rowland asked Maurice to introduce himself. Clearing his throat, Maurice said, "I'm a graduate." Chief Rowland, surprised, asked, "Really? Wow." Maurice explained, "Yes, sir. The economic situation led me to my current job." Chief Rowland inquired about his field of study, and Maurice replied, "I studied mechanical engineering." Impressed, Chief Rowland asked about his dreams. Maurice shared his vision of opening an automobile mechanical store that caters to the elite. Chief Rowland responded, "That's a great idea. Consider your dream a reality." Maurice was shocked and grateful, as were Ruth and her mom. 3 weeks later, Chief Rowland invited Maurice to a specific location, saying he had something important to discuss. Curious, Maurice quickly made his way there. Upon arrival, Chief Rowland handed him a key, congratulating him. Maurice was stunned to discover that Chief Rowland had gifted him a large automobile mechanical company. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Maurice thanked him profusely, barely able to believe his eyes. 2 days later, Ruth and Maurice were at an eatery, chatting. Ruth thanked Maurice for not giving up on her, while Maurice held her hand and said, "Ruth, I don't even know where to start. Thank you for your support in my life." They hugged each other warmly, embracing a new chapter of love and happiness. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more interesting and captivating stories.